Welcome back, everybody. So what I'm about to show you is probably the single biggest hack to win more endgames in chess. Now let me tell you how powerful this is. When I was starting out in chess, I would struggle to understand why I was losing certain endgames even when the material on the board was equal. Endgames that I thought should have just been easy draws. But then one day I lost a particularly painful game to a 2200 player, and after reviewing the game, it all clicked into place. I suddenly realized that one small nuance that I had somehow overlooked throughout years of playing chess, and that is the concept of the outside passed pawn. And pretty much once I realized actually how important this concept was, I just made the small adjustments to my play and have made sure to be on the winning end more often than the losing end since. So let's quickly cover this topic. Let's keep it as a short video. This right here is a 4-4 and light squared bishop endgame. Dead draw. There's nothing to be played for here. Either the pawns will get exchanged. It's a dead draw. We don't have to talk about this. But let's just say instead of the pawn on e3, what if the pawn was on a3? Suddenly, this is advantage to white. Now the material is still the same, but white now has what's called an outside passed pawn. And so for people starting out in chess, this is really the way to win endgames. What you want to do in the middle game is you want to, when you're exchanging pieces, when you're exchanging pawns, you want to make sure that if anyone ends up with an outside passed pawn, it's you and not your opponent. Because if your opponent ends up with a passed pawn, it's just going to end up as a struggle for you. But if you've got the outside passed pawn, what you want to do with this pawn is essentially start pushing it up the board. Now, quickly, an outside passed pawn is essentially, as you can tell visually, it's a pawn that's separated from the other pawns by quite a few files, so file being these. And it's going to take a while for that king that's castled on the king side to get anywhere near the pawn. So that pretty much makes it a really powerful pawn to just start pushing up the board as a decoy. And once your pawn starts going further and further up the board, your king is then free to move up and start capturing these pawns or creating weaknesses and then capturing those pawns. So let's take a look. Let's take the bishops off the board and let's take a look at a worked example, so to speak. This is white to play. Equal material again, except white has 2-on-1. And so the first thing we want to think about, because there's no outside passed pawn yet, there's no passed pawn at all, but white will simply play b4 and a5, and once the pawns are traded, white has that outside passed pawn. So black, knowing this, needs to rush his king to this side as quickly as possible. So let's go through it. King e2, king e7, king d3, king d6, king c4, here. And now white can probably play b4 instantly, but let's play through an instructive example. White now starts pushing the pawns on the king side and reducing the amount of moves that black has. So after h5, white locks the structure. So now black can't really move any of his pawns except that f pawn. And so if black plays f6, now white can play b4, essentially threatening to play a5. So for instance, if something like this happened, white would just swap these off. And once the king comes here, white will just come around and gobble up these pawns. And once these pawns fall, we all know how to win these games. You queen one of your pawns and checkmate the black king. On the other hand, there is a bit of a trick here just to watch out for. Black can play b5, forcing the trade of pawns, doubling white's pawns. And once the black king moves across here, white's just got to be careful how to play this, because white doesn't want to be left in a zigzag of his own. So king c3, king takes, king b3, putting the king into opposition, which means that black king needs to move. In this case, black does have a move, e5, creating a passed pawn of his own, but simply here, 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 Now black goes into opposition, but white just continues with that decoy outside pass pawn. Check, king moves away. Here, take, and we're back to this same winning endgame for white. So there you have it. That's the concept of outside pass pawns. Like we showed with the example of the bishops, it works with every other piece as well. If you've got a queen instead of bishops, queens or knights or rooks or whatever, or other pieces, it doesn't guarantee a win, but it means you're the only one pushing for a win in this situation. Because even if you lose that pawn, even if that pawn drops off, it's still going to be quite hard for black, or your opponent in this case, to win a 4 versus 3, because what will either happen is, let's just say it's bishops only, these pawns will get traded off. Let's say, oops, it'll be from 4 versus 3, it'll be 1 on 0, and once this pawn comes to a light square, the bishop will just take it off, and that's a draw. So outside pass pawns, use it in your games. Super powerful. It's the #1 hack to win in games. And if you like this video, subscribe for more. Drop a like as well. Drop a comment. Let me know what you want to see, or if you enjoyed it, or just if you want to say hi. So peace out, and catch you in the next video.